Don't you hate being in a conversation and you're about to close a deal and all of a sudden you get stumped when your prospect says, man, I need to run this past my partner, or I need to run this past my boss? Happy Thursday, Sales Ascender. The days are just muddling in today, but we have an awesome show today. Again, back with our sales objection series. And today's question or today's objection is, hey, I need to run this past my boss or my partner or spouse or whatever the ambiguous third party is that's out there. And so I remember when I first started selling and I got to this place where I got through like all the other objections. And then it was, oh man, hey, I need to go run this by so-and-so. And when I first started selling, I thought to myself, okay, that's cool. Like, go do that. I think that's a good idea, right? That was my natural inclination to say that, because if I was making the decision, I make a decision kind of in the same way. So I would let these prospects get off the hook and move in that direction, so they didn't have to commit or they didn't have to move forward with a clear future. Even though I knew I was the right person to solve their problem, I knew they had the budget, and all I needed to do was figure out the buying process. So this particular objection should usually happen after you've done your entire presentation, or you've discussed their needs and you understand they have the problem that you're going to solve for them. What's crazy is when you get there, right? When you understand, hey, like, I understand that you have this problem. I understand that you've tried all these different things and they haven't worked for you. And you've spent all this money trying all these different things and it's really frustrating them, but they haven't given up trying to solve it. Their boss and their partner and their spouse or whoever that third party is like, yo, you need to go and solve this thing. Well, that's why they're talking to you. So just knowing that is powerful. And once you've understood that, hey, they've got the problem that they can solve. Next thing it is, okay, well, let's talk about the budget. You have the budget to actually solve this. And sometimes you get a yes, sometimes you get a no. Sometimes you have to be creative around money. But then once you get through that part of the conversation, it's time to understand the buying process. This objection is going to come up a lot of the time if you don't specifically talk about, hey, like, your buying process. Could we talk about your buying process just for a second? Who besides yourself is involved in making a decision like this? And if you ask that question preemptively, then you will never have this objection run up, because what they'll say is, oh, well, I gotta, me and my partner, me and my spouse, me and my wife, or me and my team, or me and my whoever are the people that make this decision. And I will dig in even more. I'll say, well, okay, tell me about those people. Who are they? What do they do in the company? Like, how does it work? And they start to break down all the people, and I start to learn what they call the cast of characters in a professional sales environment. And so once you understand who the cast of characters are, and you get to this place and you say, well, I got to go run this past my boss. Here's the technique that I would highly encourage you to use, because it works just about 100% of the time. I've never run across when it didn't work. So it's called the magic wand. So how the magic wand works is very simple. So when they say, hey, I need to run this past my boss or my partner, I would say, first thing is agree. Say, great, that's a smart thing to do, because that's the logical thing to say. So we want to say that as a sales professional or sales ascender. And we say, well, let me ask you a question. If we could wave a magic wand and this decision was entirely up to you, would you say yes and want to move forward today? And this takes all of the pressure off of this excuse and it puts it all right on the prospect. So then the prospect has to say, well, yeah, obviously this is going to solve my problem. I'm on board. I want to work with you. And that's the kind of response that you look for. When you get that type of response, the next move is so easy. You just say, great. So now that we are both on the same side of the table, we have agreement that if you were going to make the decision yourself, you would invest in our stuff. Then the next question is, you mentioned you had to go speak with so-and-so, your partner, your boss, or whoever it is. Let's talk about that for a second. How is that conversation gonna go? How's that conversation going to take place? What do we need to say to other party in order to get them on board with you and me? Because you and me have agreement now that we are going to go solve this problem together. And it gives you the opportunity in the sales conversation. So instead of your butting heads like this, you're actually spinning around and you're sitting on the other side of the table. And so you're able to tackle what that conversation is going to be sounding like. What this does is it puts you into a place of a trusted advisor. And it also gives you the right to say, well, like, when you speak with that person, what do we need to sell? What do we need to say to them to get them on board? And now it unlocks the prospect to say, well, here's the hot magic buttons that we need to talk through with that person. Oh my gosh. Okay, great. Well, and then you can add all your expertise on top of, okay, well, if we know those are the hot buttons, this is kind of how we want to arrange this conversation. And so now let me ask, like, are you comfortable going to have that conversation? Is this something you think you can get through and get him or her or whoever on the other side of the table so we can move forward? When they say yes to that one, all you need to do at that stage is then set something called a clear future. Clear future is going to be like, great. Next question for me is, Miss Prospect, when are you going to have this conversation with your boss, partner, spouse, team, whatever? They're going to say, oh, well, we meet on tomorrow. We meet on Thursdays, Tuesdays, Mondays, whatever day. You say, great. So you're going to be that, and you'll be able to have the conversation that we just navigated through with that person to get them on board with us. See how I'm saying that with us? Now you're a team. Instead of selling into somebody, you're selling with somebody. And they'll say yes. And then you say, great. So it's going to take place in 3 days. So let's grab your calendar and set up a conversation for just after that, because I want to make sure that we're set to go. And sometimes they'll say, yes, okay, let's set up a time to speak. Other times they'll say, no. Like, as soon as I have this conversation, I get approval. It should be pretty easy. I'll just move forward and make the investment. And then you're set, because now they're going to say, this is what I'm doing. It's on me. I'll make it work. And you say, great, when can I expect that to happen? And they'll give you a timeline. And then your job as a sales ascender is to just simply be somewhat of a time sitter. So instead of a babysitter, it's a time sitter. You just wait for that time to elapse, whether 2, 3, 4, 5 days, whatever it takes. And then if you don't see it, what I always do is I do this move. It eliminates what they call cognitive dissonance or buyer's remorse. It's the same thing. And I say, great. So based on everything we talked about, we have the problem, we agree, we had this conversation on how you're going to get our other team member on board. That's awesome. Mention that you're going to be able to have that conversation, navigate it through the way we just talked on the next 2 days. And then after those 2 days, you said if it's a fit and it makes sense, then you'll just take action. If this doesn't happen, or if I didn't see a response from you within that period of time, how should I connect with you after? That's an easy way of putting it. The other way to say is, well, if I don't hear from you on next Tuesday, should I just shoot you a message on Wednesday? And then they'll say yes, and you say, great. Now you just have to be a time sitter, and then you can move forward closing the deal. And when you get back to that next question of like the time has elapsed and you haven't heard from them, you just need to say, how did the conversation go with so-and-so? And that's where you would lead in, and it's a soft way to start that conversation. And so you can go fight, win, and crush this objection. With that said, guess what? It's Thursday. You just been tuned in. I hope this one helped you. Please use it in your sales game today. If it provides value to you, please smash that like button, love button, share this to somebody who could use it. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you're watching right now. So with that said, happy Thursday, and we'll see you next time.